us for her presence, Ms. Habiba Kahinde. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks. It's really nice to see you guys again.
So without much ado, I want to welcome Camilla Nontra.
Yay!
Oh my goodness. I should come to you every day when I need.
Correct. This is Sudan.
Wow.
Sudan. Believe it or not, Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt.
Interesting.
Begin to think in a Pan-African way, because they now see that their conditions are not just about that local space, but the condition is linked to all of the other.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pan-Africana Show. My name is Fred Nontra, and I'm a co-host of the Pan-Africana Show. Good afternoon if you live on the East Coast. Good evening if you live in GMT time space. We start by thanking God. By Him we live and move and have our being. Well, today we have a special show, and very own Jesse visited the Whitehouse. He's going to tell us about his experience. But before I do that, I'm going to have the lovely Kichi say hi to you. Good morning, Kichi.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Hey.
Wherever it is you're or watching. Good week. And sorry, East Coasters. You guys got a lot of snow yesterday and today. But welcome. Thank you for taking time out to be here. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show that we have for you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. So I see we got people commenting already. I told you comment. What's going
So
on?
you're like, White House? Defense? Okay, so Jesse, before you go, first off, I mean, how did it come about? And then because Toju was trying to find out, and we're trying to find out so you could give us a connector.
I'm trying to find out myself. This is what I'll say. I'll say answering strange phone calls from a 202 number can get you all kinds of amazing things.
Oh, really?
I usually don't answer numbers I don't recognize because I usually think it's student loan people who are trying to track me down, and I'm dodging, right? So anyways, I got a call from a 202 number, and I was like, okay, watch the DC. I'm not sure who this is. Let me pick up. And it's always a jarring experience because when you pick up, they're like transferring you to the White House. You're like, whoa.
Ooh.
So now I'm thinking, like, is this, I know a lot of people who are not all great people. And I'm like, oh no, am I caught up in something? Why is the federal government calling me? And so when they transferred through, it dispatched to a friend of mine who's an insider in the Biden administration, who was like, we've been following your work that you do trying to protect tenants from eviction. This is work that coincides with the Attorney General Merrick Garland had done a call to action for people to stand up and fight against evictions when the moratorium ended last August. And so she was like, would you be willing to talk to people about what you do? And I said, sure, thinking they meant like talk to like the staff. I didn't know it was going to be like a national program. So I'm not sure, I guess.
Strange for them.
I understand, man. I understand. But yeah, when they passed me through, they were like, basically they said, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to put a program together. The Attorney General of the United States is going to be on. The second gentleman, which is the title for Kamala Harris's husband, he's going to be on.
Oh, wow.
The guy who is the coordinator for the American Rescue Plan, he's going to be on. The person who's over Legal Services Corporation, he's going to be on. So it's like all these big time people. And then I'm like, okay, so how did you get my number? So anyways, they were like, no, we've been following your program for years now. We think that you've been doing a really good job, And so I said, okay, great. And they were going to do a segment celebrating the law schools around the country that were doing something in response to that call to action. So it wasn't just me. There were, at the time, like 6 other law schools that they wanted to celebrate. So, I'm thinking, all right, great. How many weeks do I have to get a speech together and all that? And they were like, oh, you got 1 day. so I had to stay up and kind of shift some things around and put together a speech. And then, the cool part is yesterday, all the speakers have like a similar link. It's a special link that the people who are participants in the webinar don't have. So the speakers are on this background link. So you're literally on like the box, and there's about 20 people in boxes, and half of those boxes are different rooms of the White House. So it's like folks at the White House who are working. Note to self, if you work in the White House, you should press mute before you discuss sensitive government information, because we were hearing everything. And apparently, I know there was some issue with a bridge that fell that the president got briefed on. I'm not sure if it had came out as a news story yet or not.
Yes.
But yeah, I heard people getting fussed at and all that, and that was real, real interesting. It's real like West Wing, that stuff is still, it really happens. And then somebody got smart and was like, I think we are still live. Click mute. So yeah, it was really, really interesting to see like how they interact. My part of the speech is like 2.5 minutes. But yeah, and I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere. I just don't know where. So yeah, if you get a chance, check it out. We are going to see I think the plan here is to hope that Congress is going to approve additional emergency rental assistance funds because people are still hurting.
Yeah.
Are still in need of funds to not be evicted. Unfortunately, a lot of the municipalities are no longer participating or doing emergency rental assistance stuff. They're trying to rush back the status quo as if COVID is a thing of the past, and in actuality, it is not. So, for any powers that we have to be able to contact government officials and let them know that you want them to increase rental assistance in your respective community, make sure you do that. Call your congressman. It does work. They do hear it. So call, email, tweet, whatever you got to do. But our people out here are hurting. And the sad part about evictions in general is that the people who are being evicted are Black people. Like, it doesn't matter what state you're in. It doesn't matter if Black people only make up 3% of the population of that state. Wow. They still are going to make up 90% of the cases. And it's because of our rich history of discrimination when it comes to housing finance. We have had all these barriers to keep Black people from being able to access home ownership. So now we're in a position where we have to rent. And in a lot of these communities, the market value has been hurt so bad that landlords are charging top dollar because they can get it. And people who have lost their jobs because their kids are now remote learning, or lost their jobs because they got sick or in a quarantine period and had to take off for 2 weeks or whatever. Like, those people lose jobs, and something small that anybody else who owns a home could probably bounce back from, it becomes a catastrophe for somebody who loses their job and then gets evicted and then has to figure out what you're going to do. And then you get notices from the school because your kids aren't doing virtual learning. So it can really snowball. So for any pressure that we can apply to government officials to make sure that they vote properly and continue getting rental assistance, that would be incredibly helpful. Even if you're not a renter, it would be incredibly helpful, because people who get evicted have to go somewhere. And if we're in the midst of a pandemic, it's not like those people are stopping by the testing center to get checked after they got evicted. They're just going to come move in with their cousin that live next to you. And that might bring other COVID considerations. So we need to be on top of it. Ultimately, the last thing I'll say is, we know that in the United States of America, there's no right to housing. Housing is viewed as a commodity. But the problem is, in viewing housing as a commodity, it becomes part of this capitalistic system where if you don't have the resources to be able to buy it and preserve it, then you're going to be locked out of an entirely different market. People who own homes understand that home values right now are very high. So people who bought their home for cheap 10 years ago are selling now for, in some cases, 2 times, 3 times the value of what they paid for it. Yet the people who are trying to get into home ownership still cannot afford to get in under 10 years ago prices let alone the inflated prices that we have now. So if nothing else, just make sure if we can encourage home ownership amongst our people, please do that. If you had a means of owning, but you're just renting for fun, you might want to look into getting you a mortgage. There are a lot of benefits that come with it. We won't take up too much time, giving y'all that financial advice, but still, there's a lot of benefits. The biggest one being nobody can come up to your house, in the middle of a night after a 21-day period and lock you out of it. So that's my spiel.
Okay. Ikechi? Ikechi, are you there?
I'm just taking it all in. There's a lot. I could ask so many questions. I don't even know where to begin. So my first question would be, Jesse, for people who are just recently tuning in, could you give us a little bit background on what you went to school for, why you went to school for it, and what you currently do, which led you to the White House?
So I guess I went to college because I only got accepted and got a scholarship to one. I got accepted to other colleges, but there was no money. So the issue was me being somebody who was poor. Do you go to the military and then get out the military and use that money to pay for school? Or can you find an opportunity? And it just so happens the day before I was going to go sign my life away to the Marine Corps, I got a letter from Florida A&M University, shout out to FAMU in Tallahassee, Florida, that offered me a full scholarship, and I took it. I ran. I did not want to go to the military service if I could avoid it. And I went to Florida A&M, didn't really have a plan of what I wanted to do. And I just took all kinds of subjects. So once I got there and I realized I had an ability to write and I had ability to do public speaking and stuff like that, it just naturally seemed like it set me up for law school, even though I didn't really go planning to be a lawyer. I actually wanted to be a doctor. I started off as a chemistry major. We've all heard how that horror story turned out because I was getting ready to get kicked out of school trying to be a chemistry major. Then when I got to law school is a very interesting place in that the people who generally go to law school are either like second degree lawyers, like their parents were lawyers and they think this is the way to go, or it's folks who like have parents who are like business people or government officials and they understand the importance of people knowing their rights. Basically people not like me. Like you get to law school and you're like, I don't know what's going on. It's a whole new curriculum. It's like learning the alphabet all over again. And you don't feel connected because a lot of those people kind of grew up together and you're not in the fold. So my thing is, well, what can I do while I'm in law school? And the one thing about me is everybody in my city knows me. Like I'm from here. I was in the community. I played football here. I played basketball here. At one point I thought I was good. You know what I'm saying? So everybody here knew me. And I said, okay, well, since the community has poured so much into me, maybe I could just be an attorney for the community. So let me see what the community needs. And the community had a ton of needs. They needed people to do criminal defense. They needed people to set up small businesses. They needed people to advocate for people's civil rights. So I did a variety of things, from working at NAACP for a while, doing community activism. I worked with some like reform gangsters in some of our low income housing communities to try to help kids not turn to the streets. I did representing people's charges when they got caught up with weed charges, stuff like that. And just basically did whatever people needed me to do. If somebody come to me at church and be like, hey, my son got in trouble, I'm probably gonna do it. So that's what I did for a long time. And then I got a call to be able to come teach. No, not pro bono. I did some things pro bono, but for the most part, I usually, when I was in private practice for myself, I would charge, but I would charge much less than what standard attorney rates were. I do not recommend doing that because you're still going to have bills that's not going to give you a discount. Okay. But at the same time, like, I understood that people from where I'm from aren't going to have the money to pay $1,000 an hour for some attorney to come do stuff. So if I can do it for, $300, then let's make it work. I then went to Legal Aid, which is like our state's largest nonprofit law firm. And, legal aid salaries are laughable. Like, you don't get money at all working there, but you get to help out a lot of people. And you learn so much about, everything. So there I was an advocate for victims of domestic violence. I made a name for myself, like defending people during the foreclosure crisis, fighting big banks, expungements for people to clean up their record. You name it, I've probably done it at this point. And I also started teaching while I was at Legal Aid. And I was teaching initially just to say, hey, look, I'm trying to help law students understand, because a lot of law students think I'm going to law school so I can get rich, right? That's the thought. Like, I'm gonna go to law school, I'm gonna work at a firm, I'm gonna be filthy rich, and I don't ever have to see poor people ever again. Like, that's the thought process. And for me, I feel like law is so much more. Like, when I think about law, I think about people like Thurgood Marshall. I think about people like Martin Luther King, even to an extent, Malcolm X, Constance Baker Motley, like people like that who could have easily been like, you know what, segregation is what it is, or, Black second-class citizenship is what it is. I'm gonna go get my money. But they were like, no, we got a responsibility to uplift the entire community using the gifts that we have in order to be able to change legislation or influence politicians, or, in some cases, just file the cases like Thurgood Marshall, just going through the South, filing cases and challenging the status quo. So I felt like that was what I wanted to do. I wasn't going to be the rich attorney, unfortunately. As much as I would like to be rich, I'm not knocking money, but typically what you come to realize in law is those firms that hire you and pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's because they're doing really grimy stuff and they want you to be part of the grime. So, I mean, if you go in with a plan of, all right, I'm going to do this for 5-10 years, pay off my student loans, buy a house, make sure my family's straight, and then I'm going to do what I want to do, that's one thing, but it's different. I've got a friend of mine who he was working for this big time New York law firm making like crazy amounts of money. And they assigned him to be the black face of their firm when they sued the country of Nigeria over oil rights for oil that was a natural resource in Nigeria. And he said he was in court and the person representing the Nigerian government came over to him and was like, what are you doing, brother? Like, you gonna help them take oil? And he said he went back to the office and was like, I can't do this. And he quit. I can't do this. But that's the kind of stuff. Like when I was coming out of law school, like people wanted to work for this firm that was representing Monsanto. And I don't know if y'all remember, but Monsanto was the one that had some shady politics as it relates to food quality, right? So it's all cool to represent Monsanto and get, hundreds and millions of dollars. But when your kid is the one eating the apple with pesticides on it, how are you going to feel? Are you going to say, oh, okay, well, it's still my money. I got my money, right? We can get healthcare, like that. And that's just not me. Like, I'm like, no, I don't necessarily subscribe to going where the money is, because typically that money has strings. I do subscribe to fighting big banks because I think we punish, in America at least, we punish people for being poor. So we punish folks for the things that they do as a result of poverty. Like, I could tell you a number of stories I've had with clients of mine, particularly criminal defense stuff, where people were doing criminal things in violation of the law because they're poor and they don't have money. But nobody ever says anything when the bank takes an extra $25 from your account because they say you don't have enough money in the account. That's robbery to me, right? So like, I'm going to take your money because you don't have enough money. That's robbery to me. And if they're doing that to me and they're doing that to everybody who has a bank account, how rich are they getting? On top of that, when the government needs help, they're always going to bail out the big corporations. Like, the government will just cut a check to make sure JP Morgan and places like that can stay open. As opposed to when people need the help, the government is like, oh, well, we can't trust you with, the financial resources because you might commit fraud or whatever the case may be. Meanwhile, PPP fraud is everywhere. The LA Lakers got a PPP loan. So like, we just have a very, very weird sense of who is deserving in this country. And I think everything, I mean, I know I say this a lot and people probably gonna feel some type of way, but everything in America derives from slavery, like everything. And
Yes.
slavery was never reckoned with here. We never paid out the descendants of slaves anything. We continue to benefit from the products that were produced and the spillover industries like the insurance industry that came out of slavery. The banking industry came out of slavery. Those things continue to profit, and they start off with a base of capital that they'll never lose because of all the old cotton and tobacco that supported them 200, 300 years ago. And the problem is people look at, Black Americans and they're kind of like, all right, lift yourself up by your bootstraps, figure it out. And it's like, well, if we owned y'all for 400 years and we made money for you, then maybe we could, but that we can't.
Maybe you might not even have boots to start with.
Exactly. And a lot of us don't.
Right.
So, you try to do the best you can with what you have, but it's very frustrating. And I think what happens here is I feel like the people I grew up with, you go down one of three paths. Either you're going to say, I'm rejecting all of that stuff and I'm going to be successful in spite of it, but you're going to have to be 20 times better than your competitor to get half the credit, right? Or you're going to say, you know what, I give up. I'm just going to take. And that's the other third. And then there's a third of people who hit the lottery. Like you're somebody who you got into the NFL, you got to the NBA, you hit the lottery and you were able to change stuff for your family or your community. But the problem that I see with that is we shouldn't be setting our kids up in a situation where you got to hit the lottery to make it, because only a certain amount of people hit that lottery. So, what can we do to make basic life accessible? So that's why part of what I do in being a law professor is going back to high schools in my city to talk to the kids and tell them what you need to do to go to college, what you need to do to go to law school. Because growing up, I didn't see Black lawyers come to my school and talk to us about what to do. And I think it's also important for people to understand their position in the world, which, I was raised to be Pan-African. So I feel like understanding that you are not a minority, no matter what people try to say about you. Maybe you're a minority in America, but you're not a minority in the world. And helping to connect to something bigger than yourself. I think that those are the ways to go. But I mean, all that stuff, I say all that to say, I didn't have a plan going to law school. I just kind of found that I wanted to fight for the people and try to do what I could to help. And people recognize that. I guess it's propelled me to where I am now. Now I've been working at Duke Law School since 2017. And the funny thing about working at Duke is I'm not changing. Like I haven't said anything different there than I was saying before, but because now you have the backing of an institution like Duke behind you, a lot more people listen and a lot more doors open. So I'm not shocked that, now I've had the opportunity to be able to talk to congressional staffers. I've had the opportunity to be able to talk to Whitehouse officials. I've had the opportunity to talk to people from other nations who are looking at designing housing programs. I've got students now who are graduates and went on back to their native home countries and are doing great things. So it's an opportunity that I didn't see for myself. But, all of this stuff, I think, just comes from finding kind of what you are good at. And I know I will never be a partner at anybody's big time law firm. Like, it probably won't happen for me. That's not in the cards for me. Likewise, I probably won't ever be like the big time criminal defense guy sitting on court TV arguing cases, because thing about criminal defense is when you're good at it, the cases get worse, right? And I didn't like that. You get to a point where you get to like murderers and you have to rationalize with yourself. Do I really want this person out? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
All right. So Toju says, get rich by all means. It's a slippery slope.
Absolutely.
And then he says, he asks you a question. Does attending an HBCU play a part in pushing you into something beyond your plan, where a PWI would discourage such growth?
Great question. So I went to two HBCUs, right? And I think with two HBCUs, one of the things about it is they're going to emphasize to you your responsibility to Black people and to society. So I
Ooh.
definitely think that you're going to have the right framework to be able to say, I need to be doing something. Doesn't always take away the profit motive that people want to still go out and get paid. But you at least understand like who has been through here. Like I understand the importance of the legacy that's created by HBCUs and the fact that, you know, they were created for us. They were created because some of our ancestors felt like we can't walk around being uneducated in mass. Somebody has to start. So we're going to lay the first brick and teach the first crop of students and hope they come back and teach the next generation. And that's been going on at my undergrad since 1887 and at my law school since the 1930s. So, these are traditions that are important. I didn't have an experience attending a PWI, so I can't really say what PWIs do or don't do. I can only talk about anecdotally what I've heard from people. And I think at PWIs, there are professors here and there that will support you and encourage you and help you, but you got to find them. I think at HBCUs is like every professor is your parent. So you get there, everybody's like, did you do your work? Did you eat? Did you this? Did you this? It's a community. It's not just about the class. It's about your holistic well-being. It's about social skills, like being able to go out and party, but still come back and be able to do your term paper and, you know, perform at the highest level. The other thing about HBCUs is I think that we know that society in general doesn't value our grading as much as they value white school grading. So A at an HBCU, even though you work hard for it, is never going to be looked at in the same as an A from Duke, Harvard, Yale, whatever, because people somehow in their mind feel like the education system is different. But in actuality, I feel like it really hones in the foundational elements of your skill. So, you know, it's different when you got calculators and computers that can do the math versus you learning how to do it on your own. But in the long run, it helps you because you know now why these tools were invented and you know that, you know, it's helping. So I think, you know, I definitely vouch for HBCUs. I think they do a great job. I'm glad to see the focus returning back to HBCUs now that Deion Sanders is coaching at Jackson State. And I hope that society sees that these white schools are mad. Like they get mad when promising Black athletic talent, promising Black academic talent chooses to bet on themselves and go to HBCU as opposed to a white institution, because you're cutting off the means that they exploit you. And it's helpful. It's not to say that HBCU might not exploit you too, but it's different, right? So it's cutting off the means of the exploitation where you got coaches like Dabo Sweeney and them who are making millions of dollars and paying you nothing. So to answer the question, yes, I think they did push you somewhere. I don't know if a PWI necessarily discourages you. I think sometimes people feel kind of imposter syndrome or they feel loneliness because they're at PWIs and may not necessarily connect. I also think just from working at Duke, like I don't see Black students at the undergraduate level, at least, like connecting with each other like they would at an HBCU. Like at an HBCU, like you might not know everybody, but you at least recognize faces. Like I think at white school, sometimes they don't connect. I think people can form different groups based on different like orientations or whatnot, and never talk. And that's weird to me because I think, socialization as far as getting to know other people of other cultures and expanding your horizon, that's important. Lastly, just going to do a plug for FAMU because FAMU is like the United Nations of Black people, right? You get to FAMU, you go through the dormitories, and people have flags from every country that they represent because people are proud about their countries of representation. So they have flags for every country. I met people from France, the Bahamas, Jamaica, Haiti, whatever. Then you realize even the Black people who are American aren't the same. Like there's a Chicago group, there's a Texas group, there's the North Carolina group, there's the New Yorkers, right? The LA people. And everybody is so different that you start to appreciate like the diversity of what it means to be Black in general. We're all here. We're all trying to better ourselves. We're all trying to become better people. And when you have friends in other places, ultimately you're going to end up traveling. You're going to go there. and see, you know, oh, let me
Right.
see how they
Yes,
live.
yes.
Let me see what's going on here. And I think it makes you a better, well-rounded person to know, you know, full spectrum blackness. I think that's important, especially for people in North Carolina, because here, like, if you don't go to college, most people in North Carolina I grew up with, you don't leave your block, let alone leave your city or go to another, you know, go to another
Wow.
state or a country. Like international travel, that's foreign to us. So, you know, it helps to see other people because you have to break some mindsets that sometimes you learn incorrectly in order to know who you are and how great you are and how great your people are.
Well, I don't think Jesse mentioned it, but his when he went to law school was North Carolina Central University, right?
Yep,
NCCU.
absolutely.
Yeah, where my a relative of mine, my uncle, also was a professor there at the time. Well,
Oh, wow.
mhm. Well, I wanted to say one thing with, I mean, even if you don't happen to go to a HBCU, I went something close to an HBCU, Temple University. At the time, I mean, now Temple has changed a lot. At the time was really diverse.
Mm.
I think at the time was number one, the most diverse school in all of America, and you have all kinds of culture. And they had a really strong Black Studies department. And one of my highlights for the year was going to sit in on the undergrad students. They had to defend. They had a project where they wrote something about the community, why maybe gentrification needs to be stopped in the neighborhoods, or maybe why we need more schools and or less cops in the neighborhood. To give a presentation, and they have to defend it. And yeah, I'll go and sit in and ask questions and then I ask them practical questions. What I mean, you doing this presentation is nice, but how you going to do it, and how is it going to work practically in the neighborhood, and how is it going to affect the community?
Mhm.
And then and then there were fathers there. I mean, it was too late because I transferred over there too. Although I wasn't a Black Studies major, I always go to that department, and most of the professors there knew me, and they'll give me advice and all that stuff. So that's really valuable when you go to a college. You definitely need quote unquote fathers, because it's just like back home. Everybody is your uncle and everybody's your auntie.
Absolutely.
And I told you, and Nkechi can attest to that. And anyone, I mean, you never disrespect those older than you, elders. And when they say something, you have to consider, even if you disagree with it, you have to consider it and listen, and not, make a scene about it. So definitely, I agree with that point. So that's what I got from there. And then with Deion Sanders, well, for now, these colleges, places like Florida State and Alabama, who were mad that he got the second graded talent in the whole country,
Mhm.
because they've made billions from student athletes, and it's just what Jesse, was it last year or 2 years ago where they started paying them?
Last year, yeah.
Last year. I
Mhm.
mean, all this while, people, I know people have gotten hurt and lost their whole career just because they got hurt. They couldn't benefit from it from school because they didn't get anything. They'll say, oh, but they get a free education,
Mhm.
but and so my point is that Deion Sanders is changing the narrative. And before, 20 years back, or maybe 15 years back, all the talent used to come from HBCUs. Jerry
Absolutely.
Rice, T.O.,
Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp, exactly. Shay, Uncle Shay. All the talent came from there. So, but it's shifted now. So he's changing that dynamic, and I'm really proud of him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And I just want to add too, because I've seen a lot of hoop dreams get deflated too. There are a lot of people who they got recruited to play basketball or play football at a school, but God forbid you get hurt. They're not going to continue with your education. They send you back home. So now you're just the person who everybody had their hopes and dreams
Wow.
relying on to be, this lottery pick. but you got hurt, unfortunately, and they weren't going to continue to pay for your education just because of that. So there are a lot of people who go and they're on like renewable 1 year scholarships, not necessarily a full ride for athletics. And that's the other dirty secret that they don't really tell people. They can offer you partial, and if you have nothing else, you're going to take it because what else am I going to do? And then they say, oh, just prove yourself. So you go extra time in the gym. Athletes in college do not get the same college curriculum schedule that we do because your priority has to be the sport. So you're talking about people who wake up at like 5, 6 in the morning to go work out, eat, watch film, prepare. You might get to your classes for like 2 hours a day, and that's going to be at 5 at night. So, there's a lot of people who like, your grades may not be what they want to be. And I know UNC got caught up in the scandal a couple years back where they were like just giving people A's so they could keep playing the sport, but folks didn't know anything. Mm-hmm. So it's all kinds of dirty stuff in ways that they've exploited to be able to have the quote unquote blue chip talent that they feel like will be somebody they can push through to the pros who will then turn around and get their money back to the school to help the school do this to other people. So it's a whole paradigm shift of folks going back to HBCUs and the addition of people being able to be paid for their names and likenesses. Now it's shifting the culture of college sports, and it's going to eventually diminish the value that a college coach at a PWI will get, mainly because if you can't attract top talent, then what are they paying you millions of dollars for? So that's why they're upset. Like you're taking your power back en masse, and these students are deciding. And we were all waiting for the one like blue chip talent who was going to say, I'm not going to a white school, I'm going to HBCU, because it starts a trend. Like now with social media, once that person made the commitment, then that's why Dion also got the second guy. He also got the third guy.
Yeah, he got a couple of them.
It's a trend. And we've got NBA players now who have adopted HBCUs. There are some artists and entertainers who have adopted HBCUs too. So they're trying to fortify the HBCUs to help them catch up with infrastructure, but also they're, repping their merchandise. LeBron sponsors on Florida A&M. Yeah. So he got our team like new basketball jerseys. He created a LeBron shoe that's just for Florida A&M. And then now, whenever he's on Twitter, he's going to have Florida A&M stuff on just because that's the school he adopted. LeBron. Shout out to LeBron. But Chris Paul's doing the same. Puff Daddy did the same. Like everybody's doing that because they see the value in investing in your own institutions, which many of which in the 80s and 90s were getting ready to close their doors because they just didn't have the money and resources to be able to keep going. So this is all good for us, and I'm hoping that this will continue as a trend for people to continue choosing HBCUs. Not to say PWIs you won't get a great education, because I think you would, but I also think it's something different about an HBCU being able to learn more about yourself. Florida A&M was also a HBCU established on the grounds of a former slave plantation. So everything that they had from slavery is housed in the Museum of African American History right on campus. So it's always kind of jarring to walk through campus. You're required to go to the museum. It's always jarring to walk through campus, past the trees where they used to lynch us from, and go into the museum and see all the relics, like the things they used to put around your neck, the muzzles they used to give you, the force feeding stuff. To see that, it like puts it back in perspective as to why are we here and what are we here to do. So I definitely would recommend it. Hey, Steph.
Hey, Steph.
Wow.
Right.
I don't really know what to say because how do I even start? Like for Africans coming from the continent, HBCUs are not encouraged. So for most of us, when we're applying for schools, we're told to look for the Stanfords, the Harvards, the Princetons, and if you can't get those ones, look for the ones that are, relatively good universities, but not as expensive, But when it comes to HBCUs, no. And I'm speaking from experience because this was a conversation I had with my late dad about going to, I think it was Howard, and he was so adamant that none of us go to an HBCU. So when we all ended up going to PWI schools, the first thing I realized, I'm very African. I don't know if most people know this. I'm very African. There was no African Student Union for students. So we just had Africans on campus. You know, you don't know who's African. You don't know who is African American, but we're just on campus, seeing each other sometimes when you go to the cafeteria, but not talking to each other. And like you said, when you go to college, it's more than just getting an education, it's building a community. So my friends and I, we recreated the African Union that we had years ago on campus. And my sisters did the same thing in their school in Missouri State University. I think my sister was president for 1 or 2 years. So now, had we gone to an HBCU, that would not be an issue. But because everybody said, oh, you need to go to a school that's predominantly white to get a better education, it looks good on your resume. So you now have lots of Black students on campus walking by each other, not saying anything, trying to fit in. So there were those of us that were like, okay, I'm just here to get an education. Then there were those that were there that were trying to get more out of the education, but they don't have that sense of community. Because I'm not even going to lie, I found myself attending more African American events, but they were very, very little. And they were always like in bad places, but that's what they could afford. But it's just crazy listening to you where you said that they always did like it, for in HBCUs they remind you why you're there. I never got that. They never told me, oh, this is why you're here. Mine is just I was there to go to school. I'm in school because they said I should be in school, so I'm in school, and now I need to hurry up and get out of school. And I feel as if that's how it is for a lot of Black people that go to PWIs. You're not there to find a sense of identity, because if you're looking for a sense of identity, you're going to probably lean more towards white identity, but you're not white. So how can you identify as white?
Deep.
And
deep.
most of my friends end up being international students. Oh, sorry, I was reading
That's
what
what
Stephanie
ends up happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was just my 2 cents.
Well said. Advoice, being Black at HBCU wouldn't be held against you.
Oh yeah, no. Everybody's Black. We have a couple white people here and there, a couple Latinos, but most people are gonna be Black.
Well, Stephanie says HBCUs have received special staff under the Biden administration. Lots of information out there. USDA scholarship is huge. There's free money out there, but we leave on the table because we have been trained to turn our nose up at agriculture. And I want to say there's a couple of people. I mean, coming from Ghana, a couple of family friends went to Howard, and this other lady I met who is now a medical doctor. They went to Howard. So there's a number of people from Ghana and Howard. So I mean, it's not every. It depends on where you're coming from. That's going to discourage you from going to an HBCU. But, Howard Medical School is medical school. She's no less of a doctor now that she is a medical doctor. If she had gone to Princeton, she's just as good as any other doctor.
Any other doctor, yeah.
And I'll say this, Keji, I don't think, what's sad is there are Black Americans who are against HBCUs. Like, it's the thing about it is I can understand somebody saying, I want for my kids what I think is going to put them in the best position to take a transferable skill elsewhere. And the reality for us is we know at HBCU that our degree, even though we feel like it should be treated as equal, it's not going to be treated as equal by society. And in American society, unfortunately, white people run stuff, right? So people want their kids to have a shot, and nobody turns their nose up at a Harvard or Yale or Stanford or Duke or Princeton. Nobody's going to turn their nose up at that. It doesn't matter what your skin tone is. So I get what people are saying. The problem is the second part of what you were addressing. college isn't just a business of you going to get an academic education. It's that social piece, right? So there's so many people who have told me like similar stories about not just like feeling ostracized from the group, but going to try to have like parties and stuff with white people who come in wearing blackface and trying to like mimic your culture and all that stuff, and
There you
not
go.
knowing how to process
There
that.
you go.
And I think that has
Exactly.
like reverberations for after you graduate, because we all know, whether you go to HBCU or not, if your plan is to stay in the United States, you're going to have to interact with white people at some point. So what do you have as far as boundaries or defense mechanisms to be able to deal with corporate white America and not lose yourself, right? So I think, you know, HBCUs do a great job of at least giving you that shelter. I also think about like the period in time in life that I made the most mistakes was while I was in college, right? So you're learning, you're becoming an adult, you're trying to figure that out. You're trying to figure out dating, you're trying to figure out classes, you're trying to figure out, if you like me, you have to work, you're trying to get money, like you're trying to figure out so much stuff at the time, and you're not fully an adult yet. You haven't gotten it all together yet. I think that sometimes the disservice that I've heard from private white institutions is that if you make a mistake as a black person at a private white institution, that's the end of your life. Like it's over. They're going to kick you out of school. They're not going to want to respect you anymore. They're not going to want you to have a second chance. HBCU is not necessarily like that. It takes a lot to get kicked out because everybody's a parent. They know that the best weapon at an HBCU is shame. So they will shame you. And then on top of that, they love you and embrace you and teach you, right? And it's, you know, if you watch those old episodes of Different World, it's very much like that. Like everybody is a mom, you know, people like me who didn't necessarily have a stable 2-parent household. It was great. You know, I had a English professor who basically adopted me freshman year and was like, no, you sticking with me, you going places. And at the end of my time at Florida A&M, I told her I wanted to go to law school. She asked me where I was applying, and she was not impressed by the schools that I was applying to. Because she was like, nope, that's a state school. Nope, that's a state school. And I was like, well, where do you want me to apply? She's like, you're going to send at least one to Harvard. And I was like, why? And she said, if you want my letter of recommendation, you have to try. You have to try. I'll write a recommendation to anywhere else that you want me to, but you got to do one for Harvard. And I did it knowing I wouldn't get accepted, right? But I did it anyways because I wanted her recommendation for all the other schools. And when she sent it off, I got the nicest letter of rejection that I've ever received from Harvard Law School. And it was written by the dean at that time, who is now a United States Supreme Court justice. So it's one of those things where it's like, wow, she just wanted me to not limit myself. She was like, no, don't feel like people who go into Harvard are better than you just because you didn't, have this experience. You can compete with anybody, right? And I love that. I love that about her. But, ain't nobody in my household telling me that. So it's like, it was cool to have somebody that believes in you, that thinks that you can do stuff, that, finds opportunities at different places across the country to send your way. The other thing is people sleep on HBCU. They have these things called feeder programs. So at FAMU, our big ticket item is the School of Business. If you go to the School of Business at FAMU, they have feeder programs with various corporations in America that have to hire so many people from FAMU. Call it affirmative action or whatever you want, but those people are going to come out and get the job that they wanted, doing what they want to do, making the kind of money they want to make because they went to FAMU, right? So I think that stuff's great. They also have a feeder program for graduate school. So I got accepted to NC State. I could have gotten a master's in English for free to go to NC State, which is great. I made the dumb decision not to take it because I thought I was going to go to law school and be a freedom fighter. So now I'm dodging the student loan people. But, always look at the HBCUs and see what they have and what connections they make and where they can go. Because I definitely think now we're progressing in a society where people are more accepting of understanding that college education doesn't matter where you went. what matters is you got the degree, right? So if you had a degree, you had the skills and know how to
Absolutely.
do what you need to do, great. I also encourage people, whether you're at an HBCU or a PWI, you have to build that network, because it's so. On this side, when I look at like my students who have gone on to do amazing things, the reason why most of them got the opportunity wasn't because of their education, it's because of somebody they knew whose dad is somebody somewhere who had an opportunity,
Exactly.
like that's what it is. And I think people, we have to be real about that. Like, people need to understand, yes, you need to know various people from various backgrounds, because you don't know where you're going to be in 10 years. And the economy may all shut down, and the one job that you can get, your friend's dad is the boss, right? So it might be helpful to know that. Likewise, if you want to build a business up, you'd be surprised how many people are willing to mentor you, whether they look like you or not, as long as they know that you got sense. And the best way to show people you got sense is to have a friend that knows you who can tell them you got sense. So it's important.
Excuse me. Finish up, Jesse. I just want to get to the comments.
No. Well, I think that's it for me. I just want people to understand, like, I always call it the hidden curriculum, but there's your grades, and then there's the curriculum, like your social skills. Are you going to be somebody that people can rely on? Are you going to be somebody that people enjoy working with? Are you going to be somebody who is a trendsetter, innovator? Like, what are you? And if you haven't figured that out by the time you get out of college, sometimes that can be difficult to try to figure out while you're trying to also work and pay bills and all that stuff. Not to say you can't do it, but it can be difficult. It's nice to be grounded when you come out with your degree and know what you're trying to do.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And some of the networks that I made while in college in Temple, I mean, I still have to today, and sometimes we even have little vacations in different parts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And even we had Jada come up a couple of weeks ago. How come I knew a little bit about that is because some of the friends who went to Temple got a wind of it about what a CRA does, and so a lot of the guys from Temple and the connections from Temple and what's the name of the school downtown? Not UPenn. Remind me, Kitch, what's the other name of the third school in Philadelphia? There's UPenn. It's in West Philly.
State?
No, in West Philly. There's UPenn and
I don't know why I feel like it's Loyola, maybe.
Oh, you're drawing a blank too? Okay, never. Okay, so yeah, so that all that connection, helped them after they were done, years after college. So it's definitely those networks are more important than Villanova is it's in the outskirts of Philadelphia. This one is actually in Philly. I don't know why.
Drexel?
Drexel. Thank
Drexel.
You. Just, yeah.
Drexel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to Stephanie says agriculture is a big deal here and back in the motherland with emerging economies and nation building efforts. That's why Black folks are buying land here and abroad.
Mm-hmm.
We have to look at these things with different eyes. Yep, I absolutely agree. And if you want to buy land in Nigeria, you can contact Nkechi and she'll steer you in the right direction.
I mean, I know people who know people. How does that sound?
Yeah. And Toju says HBCUs like Jackson State, Grambling, South Carolina State, Morgan State have more NFL Hall of Famers than Michigan State, Florida, Texas A&M, Auburn University.
Mm.
Yep. You must be making friends in high and low places network. Absolutely.
Yep. Be well rounded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I always be chatting, and back then I always used to chat with anyone from the janitor to whatever professor, because I feel like that's how you grow, and I remember the day I graduated, a lot of them, were happy for me. Like we go to the cafeteria and and they took pictures of some of the people because they saw one of theirs, getting a college degree, and they always encouraged me. And those were life lessons that I'll never forget. Yeah.
Absolutely. And y'all already know about HBCU graduations. It's a party. So like every Greek organization, they're gonna do their stroll across the line. Everybody comes through, they do their dance. But it's a celebration because you see so many beautiful Black people from so many places in the world, like accomplishing something that they set out to do and invested 4 or 5, however many years to do, and they get it. And everybody's family is there. Like it's a big deal. So and they usually have somebody like Oprah or Barack Obama come talk to you. Yes, so that's great. I met John Henson from Living Single just randomly at my college graduation, and he told me he was proud of me. He doesn't even know me.
Oh wow!
So just awesome stuff. But yeah, you have to have it, and you have a tie to a university that every year is going to do a homecoming celebration, and you're going to get to see people that you went to school with grow up and do amazing stuff. There was a lowly filmmaker who was making films on campus, and now he's a big time Hollywood producer. His name's is Will Packer, and he's doing big stuff in Hollywood now. But who knows? Okay. You never know how these things are going to turn out. Like we had, Kay Michelle was there when I was there. So many folks that you just like you pass in regular class or whatever. The biggest story I have from my HBCU, we had a student who was trying to transfer in. His name at the time was Theodore. He came to the English professor's class I was telling you guys about, and she made us go up and down the line about what we wanted to do when we grew up. And she said, Theodore, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he said, I want to be a rapper, right? And she said, oh, okay, you want to be a rapper? Spit something right now.
Yeah.
And he didn't have anything. He was like, well, no, I got to prepare, whatever. And she was like, nope, you blew your chance. The opportunities don't come but one. She's like, why? You got to always be prepared. So like we were laughing because we thought it was funny.
Always.
And he was a little embarrassed or whatever. He ended up performing at our homecoming concert. Wasn't the best performer. He ended up slipping on the little synthetic fog and failed, which at HBCU, that's going to get you clowned. So he got clowned, and it was just this whole story. So anyways, fast forward, the year I'm getting ready to graduate, this song comes on the TV. It's a video, and the song is I'm Sprung. And I'm sitting there like, that's Theodore on BET. Turns out he turned into T-Pain, right? T-Pain. Yeah. Exactly. Now he's a major celebrity and he's got millions of dollars and he's laughing at us. So you never know who these people are. I hear a similar story was like that with Common when he went to Florida A&M. But yeah, you never know. And what's funny is T-Pain actually got into a little altercation with a good friend of mine. I don't want to put names out there, but a good friend of mine, because he was trying to sell a mixtape. And my friend refused to buy the mixtape. This was when he was still Theodore. My friend refused to buy the mixtape. He was like, man, it's 1 o'clock at the gas station. You can't just run up on me with mixtapes. That's going to get you knocked out. So now we look back, and I'm proud. I'm proud of both of them. But yeah, that's my T-Pain story.
My goodness.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have any of that like that from where I was.
I'm sure. Yeah, people grow. And like the guy who was the student government president when I was at Florida A&M grew up to be Andrew Gillum. He almost was governor of Florida. Yeah.
Florida, yeah. Andrew Gillum. Yeah.
So it's just a small world. Like you just never know what people are gonna do. And because it's that HBCU setting, everybody is like 2 degrees of separation from somebody else. So I think those are the good things about it. I wish society, like the bigger society, would accept HBCUs a lot more and understand the importance. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's cool. I just want people, if nothing else, even if you do go to a white institution, you should have friends at HBCU. You won't have better friends than friends that you make at HBCU. Because, there's this like thin line between we got class and civilization versus if we got to get ratchet, if we got to get ratchet, we willing to do that, like that kind of thin line. And you know, every situation that you might be in might call for some different response. So it's nice. It's nice to have some people in the Rolodex that's like, hey, look, if I go to jail, y'all got me, right? Like, yeah, we with you.
Yeah, I mean, as you're
Wow.
speaking now, you know, I mean, I don't want to see any letters from Temple, or I don't want to go back there because then the business school, they're building they had a new building, Alter Hall, and you know, they jacked up our our tuition by 20% just for the business school. So I was really, you know, upset about that, and I still hold that against them. So you know, so I don't have the same when it comes to that. I mean, I'm grateful for all the relationships I made and all the stories, you know, all the professors that I got to know who I still can call today. Professor Young Wonkaya from Liberia, I can call him today and, you know, and tell him, hey, can you help this guy, you know, with tuition and all that? And he'll do that. You know, he even helped me at the point where I couldn't get into class and all that stuff. But, you know, and it was because of the hike in the tuition. But so I don't have stories like that. And, you know, I wish I had stories like that. You know, I'll say I go into Temple, but I'm not really.
I know, right?
It's not a place I want to see a letter from trying to contribute to the alumni. No.
They got to name the building after you, man.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, should we get into our trivia today? Nkechi is not part of it, so
yes.
You're a host. You know, you're a host, so you're a co-host, so you can't win it.
Okay, fine.
So today we'll give Toju a chance. Toju and
Stephanie.
I mean, there's a few other people on, but we haven't heard from them on Facebook. But I haven't heard from them yet. But this is your chance. So the first answer, I'll share it with my. The first answer, I think they know it already. The first question is, what's the capital of Seychelles? And you have 10 seconds. So Jesse, will you give the countdown?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A half.
Oh! Toju got it. Okay, so Toju is winner for today.
Congratulations!
I wish we had a background to get a round of applause for him.
Yay!
By himself, he wasn't sure, like Victoria. He had a question mark.
I love how Stephanie said, "I'll take the L." Maybe next time, Steph. Keep trying.
Yeah, maybe next time. But yeah, Toju got the answer is Victoria. It's like final because Kitchen wouldn't share with you. So, well, you get to pay her back. You don't share with her either.
I know.
Yeah. So, well,
what?
I keep saying it. One of the best places in the world to go on vacation. If you're not married yet, it's a nice place to, go on your honeymoon. Beautiful place, small island. It has several islands, and apparently there's a particular place on the island that I was a little mad when I saw that. Where Tom Cruise and a couple of celebrities go there. They pay it's like $40,000 a night. It's on a separate island.
What?
Yeah.
Do they have a discount program?
Oh, wow. Oh, they rich.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, you can get really nice places.
Yeah.
This guy, the YouTuber out of Nigeria, what's his name?
Kabi.
Oh no, the one I think after you did Wudamaya is the next. Tayo, yeah, Tayo went there and he showed those places.
Tayo Aina, yeah.
Yeah, Tayo Aina.
But he didn't. But remember, he also said that he also said that he didn't really feel at home there.
Oh, in
Mm.
Seychelles.
I wonder
Oh,
why.
he said that?
Yes, he said he didn't really feel at home. He said that Zanzibar, the Seychelles. He said that I follow him and I was watching it, and he said that he had never felt
I think it was
so
Zanzibar because I don't
like
think he said that in
homesick.
Seychelles. Yeah.
No, he said that about Seychelles. He said he prefers Zanzibar. He was even asking
Oh.
at the end of the video, where are all the black people? He was expecting to see black people, but he could.
At
I'll send you the video,
$40,000 a
but he
night,
couldn't
you're not
find
gonna
black
see no
people in
black people.
Seychelles.
Look
Nah.
at Tony said he needed a 39,000 discount.
Nah, 40,000 a night. I'll be
Yeah,
at
but
Zanzibar too.
Right.
Yeah, would
there,
you?
there are places that were like 100 a night or something, but that's still a lot for. I mean, especially when you go for an African country. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just anybody can go there because.
I'm trying to imagine, right? So I take my wife to Seychelles. We get the nice, $100 a night room. We think we doing it big. And then here go Tom Cruise at the $40,000 a night, got right across the way. I'm gonna feel some type of way. I'm gonna be upset.
Oh,
Because then I'm
goodness.
be getting compared. It's like, why do they have this? Why 40,000 a night, man? Whew.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with Stephanie. Buy a house, and
Wow.
yeah, Stephanie, you can actually build a full houses. Some parts of Ghana, maybe not Accra, but like in
Right.
unless you already have the land in Accra, but in the outskirts of Accra, you can buy a full house.
Yeah, not Accra, because Accra, their prices are.
Yeah, a full house for 40,000, and it's really nice. So it's not a. Okay, that's fine.
Accra is expensive.
Yes. Stephanie, buy a house in Seychelles so we have somewhere to do for our remote location Pan Africana recording.
Yeah, when we go on vacation, like
Oh, that'd be so nice though. That'd be so nice.
Or we can just call Tom Cruise. We got to figure out one way or another how to make that happen.
Yeah, it's a little island in the middle of the island. All right, so we're gonna wrap up now. Well, it's nice. It's been nice spending a Saturday with you as usual. The Pan Africana Show. If you haven't done so already, please do so. Subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at the Pan Africana Show.
Yes. And if you're interested in being a guest, please reach out to us as well. I mean, you spoke about Tom Cruise. I can't talk to Tom Cruise because he's gonna be jumping on my couch, man. I can't do that. That's disrespectful.
Let's say he's gonna be jumping on your couch.
He's gonna be jumping on my couch. If you jump on Oprah's couch, you'll jump on my couch. I don't know how she let him do that and get away with it because that's disrespectful. We don't do that. So, anyways, if you're interested in being a guest on the show, please feel free to reach out. Some of y'all have feelers in your inbox right now, and definitely respond to me and let me know. We would love to have you, and we love to celebrate you and talk about you. Doesn't matter where you are. You can let us know. If we got a language barrier, we'll figure that out too. So definitely reach out to us, let us know, and we will have you on the show.
All right, and told you I'll be reaching out to you with your gift card. All right. Bye,
you can reach out to me with his gift card. I'll give you his gift card. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in.